though, and let me read it for you. You've heard bits of it, so some of it will sound familiar, like the beginning, hello, Savannah. I always get a bit creeped out when I see that because it sounds very Hannibal Lecter, hello, Clarice. I get, but that's the way the first note started, and you've probably heard that before, but you won't have heard.
Hello, Savannah. We have your mother, Nancy. She is safe, but scared. Those are the opening words of a document the public was never supposed to read in full. A ransom note, addressed directly to a network television anchor, demanding $4 million in Bitcoin and containing a detail so specific it could only be known by someone who stood inside a crime scene. That document sat inside the Pima County Sheriff's Department for months, and when it was finally released, it wasn't because of a court order. It wasn't because of a press conference. It was because a 17-year-old YouTuber asked a question that no reporter had managed to ask.
Won't have heard the rest of it. So, hello, Savannah. We have your mother, Nancy. She is safe, but scared. She will be held for ransom, and once payment is received, she will be released unharmed. We will be holding her for a maximum of 7 days. I had not heard that there was a 7-day timeline on this, but wait until you hear what they say they're going to do. So we'll be holding her for a maximum of 7 days. You will need to send Bitcoin in the amount of 4 million USD.
Think of a floodlight in a backyard shattered. Glass on the ground, the filament dark. Now imagine that same broken light is mentioned in a letter demanding money for the safe return of an 84-year-old woman. The letter knew about the light. The letter knew about the smartwatch on the floor at the foot of the bed. These aren't details from a news broadcast. These are details from inside the perimeter. The notes didn't just threaten a family. They revealed proximity. And that proximity is what makes the timeline of their release an act of public relations, not public safety. The notes were already read.
Before 5 p.m. Thursday the 5th. That would be the 5th of February. She was taken on the very early morning of the 1st. If payment is not received, the ransom will be increased to 6 million USD, which will need to be paid by 5 p.m. on Monday the 9th of February. And that would be a full week and 1 day since they had taken Nancy Guthrie. The ransom note senders, I won't say kidnappers because I'm not 100% convinced that these are really the kidnappers. I think these are folks from overseas trying to make...
The first note set a 7-day clock. $4 million by February 5th or the price escalates. $6 million by February 9th. The language was algorithmic. It's in the best interest of everyone to have this completed as soon as possible. You have no time to spare right now. Artificial urgency, a hallmark of confidence schemes. But then the letter pivots from digital extortion to intimate description. She had a white smartwatch on the floor of the foot of her bed, and the white floodlight in the backyard was destroyed. A foreign scammer sitting behind a keyboard in a different hemisphere does not know the position of a smartwatch relative to a bed frame. Someone local does. The notes were already read.
Back into some. If payment is not received by the last deadline, Monday the 9th at 5 p.m., she will be killed. It's the first time I've seen that. I mean, look, we all assume that the ransom was give us money or, we keep your mom, but I had not heard, I did not know that there was a specific threat. We will kill her.
And then the threat that changes the legal classification of the entire file. If payment is not received by the last deadline, Monday the 9th at 5:00 p.m., she will be killed. Not, harm will come to her. Not, you won't see her again. The word is, killed. Premeditated language. Actionable language. This is no longer a missing persons case with a strange financial twist. This is a capital threat, documented, time-stamped, and held by a sheriff's department that would spend the next 6 months telling the public they knew more than they could ever release.
And this we had an inkling about. Now it is addressed not to Savannah. It says Guthrie family. It doesn't say hello. It doesn't say to the Guthrie family. It doesn't say to Savannah. It says Guthrie family. We did not fully grasp the seriousness of her physical condition. We never intended to hurt her. That was not our intention. She perished shortly after she was taken. We believe it was heart-related. She is buried in nature now. Nothing you could have done could have changed the outcome.
Then comes the second note. No greeting, No name, just Guthrie family. The tone shifts from extortion to elegy. We did not fully grasp the seriousness of her physical condition. We never intended to hurt her. She perished shortly after she was taken. We believe it was heart-related. She is buried in nature now. We are truly sorry. The word, perished, does not come from a ransom negotiator. It comes from someone trying to close a transaction that went wrong. Someone who took an elderly woman from her bed without shoes and then expressed surprise that she did not survive the ordeal.
Super curious as to the timing of the release of these notes. Again, Nanos taking it on the chin again, doing an interview with 17-year-old Wyatt Sharp and the Sharp Exchange. Get it? Subscribe to it. This kid's going to run the whole world one year. I'm telling you, trust me, one day we're all going to work for Wyatt. But, you know, the heat was on suddenly because he, took the boots to Kash Patel a little bit, saying that he was misinformed, and when you say those things out loud, it can hurt the investigation. So Kash Patel was called by his friend Sean Hannity on Fox, and he appeared on Fox to address what Wyatt Sharp got in that interview.
The timing of the release of these notes is the real evidentiary question. For months, the Pima County Sheriff's Department held them back. Then a 17-year-old named Wyatt Sharp, host of a YouTube program called The Sharp Exchange, interviewed Sheriff Chris Nanos. In that interview, the sheriff criticized FBI Director Kash Patel, calling him misinformed and claiming his public statements hurt the investigation. Within 48 hours of that interview going viral, the sheriff's department blasted the full ransom notes to their media mailing list. Not at a press conference, not through a formal evidentiary filing, through a PR blast. The notes were already read.
Take a look.
That and much more is FBI Director Kash Patel. Director, please correct me if I'm wrong. Am I not correct in my understanding that he did not want the FBI involved in the very beginning? He did not send the evidence where it should have been sent, which would be to Quantico, the best equipment available. When the FBI finally was brought in, we finally got the biggest break in that case, which was you were able to use your connections to get that videotape of that guy trying to cover that camera, the biggest breakthrough in the case. He's saying this today, and I know it all to be a lie. Your reaction?
Look, Sean, the FBI, the world's premier law enforcement agency, is here to help in every missing persons case. And just like most missing persons cases, they're state-led cases because the state has a jurisdiction. And in this case, like others, we offered our help from day one. And we'd gotten to some of that information and evidence earlier. You just outlaid what we did and what we can do. But the state has the right, and the sheriff has the right to conduct his investigation, and he has the right to own it as well. They sent the DNA to a private laboratory, which took 6 weeks. We offered Quantico from Jump, the world's best laboratory. And of course,
The FBI director responded on national television. He stated that the Bureau offered Quantico's laboratory from day one. The sheriff sent the DNA instead to a private lab in Florida, where it took 6 weeks to process. Director Patel noted that the Ring doorbell footage, was single biggest break in the case, was recovered because the FBI worked with Google to retrieve cache data that was set to auto-delete. His exact words, had the FBI been brought in days earlier, they could have recovered more. The window closed because the invitation was delayed. The forensic question now hangs over the entire investigation. What else auto-deleted while the evidence sat in a queue?
Listen.
Do we know what that DNA is? Is it blood? Is it fluid? Is it hair? Is it a fingerprint? Can you give us that guidance just for our own reporting accurately?
What I can tell you is that it's probably a combination of all of that. But what I would tell you is that I think there was some mention from the FBI about a hair that was found in having it DNA. So we gather all this DNA from all types of sources, and it's given to who? Oh, Sheriff's Department, you handle the DNA, forensics for cameras and that, FBI, you handle it. That was just a sharing of responsibilities for resources.
So this DNA is likely blood and possibly hair.
Well,
Then came the DNA disclosures. Sheriff Nanos told CBS News that the biological evidence recovered from Nancy Guthrie's home is a mixture. Blood, possibly hair, possibly other material. When pressed on whether it was blood, fluid, hair, or a fingerprint, the sheriff replied, it's probably a combination of all of that. A combination of all of that is not a forensic category. It is a colloquialism offered in place of a finding. The hair sample, sent to a specialized lab, came back with no results. A single strand, recovered from the scene, yielded nothing. 6 months in, the genetic evidence had not narrowed the suspect pool, it had widened it.
I think the hair analysis was done and there was nothing.
That leaves a mixed sample of DNA as the only potential piece of biological evidence left. The sheriff said they're working to untangle a mix of DNA from as many as 4 people.
My understanding is there's at least 5, maybe 6 labs across the country that are working on all of this.
And they are using genetic genealogy. And tonight, 6 months after Guthrie was taken from her home, the sheriff is unable to say whether that masked man was working alone.
ABC News is now reported that the sheriff is now working to untangle a mix of DNA from as many as 4 people. 4 distinct profiles inside a home where an elderly woman lived alone. 5, possibly 6 labs across the country are now processing these samples using genetic genealogy. And after half a year, the sheriff could not say whether the masked man on the doorbell camera acted alone. His words, "I don't think anybody's here ready to say it's one guy, it's 10 guys. Did he have help? Could have." The investigation, by its own lead official's admission, had moved backward. More suspects, more profiles, less clarity.
I don't know that that's what eliminated means, but here is what Sheriff Nanos told Fox Digital.
And that's something, absolutely, yes. They could come up again. I think I early on said, look, there is no suspects. The family is not suspects. They're not. Now, does that mean that ends it forever? No. What happens if next week somebody calls and says, hey, a family member did this, and here's how I know it? That always opens a door. But we look at it and go, okay, can we eliminate these people from what we have in front of us, the evidence, the DNA, the whatever, the videos? Yeah, I think you can eliminate them. And so that elimination happens. But it's like any case criminal, because you're eliminating.
And then the sheriff dismantled his own prior statements about the family. Early in the investigation, the Guthrie family was described as eliminated, no longer suspects. That was the public position. But in a subsequent interview, the sheriff reversed the meaning of the word he had used for months. They could come up again. Does that mean it ends forever? No. Because you're eliminated doesn't mean you didn't do it. It doesn't mean that we can't get more information. Eliminated no longer means cleared. It means paused. The brother-in-law, whose car was towed and held for over 50 days, whose home was processed in the middle of the night, is eliminated but not cleared. 2 words that used to mean the same thing now mean the opposite.
At this point,
Nobody's completely ruled out. What it is, we took information, developed it for a warrant from a judge, a magistrate, and we served that warrant. All the information we gathered is gathered, and because we didn't make an arrest or we released some people doesn't mean they're cleared. It just means that we don't have enough now to hold you. We don't have it. The courts get to tell us that. And we release them, release their property back, but the evidence we've obtained, who knows, maybe a day from now, a month from now, a year from now, somebody might call in and say, oh, you missed this. And guess what? We'll go back. So, yeah.
Are you still actively looking into those individuals, or?
No, I wouldn't talk about that. Yeah, I can't talk about that.
The same logic applied to the 2 individuals targeted in said operations early in the case. Helicopters, dozens of vehicles, bomb squad units, no arrests, property returned. When asked if those individuals had been completely ruled out, the sheriff said, "Nobody's completely ruled out. It just means we don't have enough now to hold you." So the department executed high-risk tactical warrants against specific people, found nothing sufficient to charge, released them, returned their property, and now says the door remains open indefinitely. The doctrine of the perpetual suspect, cleared for today, uncleared forever.
No, we processed a crime scene and we left. Yeah, but you came back. We do that. When we got video of a man at the door, the FBI said, hey, we can give us some weight, height, do that with some stuff they use, some of the technology they have, if we could go back. Absolutely. So it could be a burglary. Hey, we went in, we processed the scene, and we leave, and 2-3 days later, the wife says, I found this screwdriver. It doesn't belong to me, over here behind the bed or something. We're not going to say, oh, too late. We go back and pick it up. So, yeah, the fact that, oh, we closed it, reopened.
The crime scene itself became a point of contention. The sheriff confirmed that the department released the scene, then re-entered it when the family reported news media at the windows. The justification shifted. At first, it was standard procedure. Then it was because the FBI wanted additional measurements. Then it was because a deputy was posted outside for security. Each explanation was true enough on its own, but together they formed a pattern. The official story kept adapting to the question being asked. The scene was secure until it wasn't. The family was eliminated until they weren't. The evidence was prioritized until it was sent to a lab that took 6 weeks.
You say you are optimistic, you're positive that there will be a resolution here. Is that based on any evidence that you have before you, or is that driven by your gut?
It's based on all the evidence before me. The bottom line here is this: we know more than you will ever know, because that's how investigations work.
When asked directly whether his optimism about a resolution was based on evidence or gut instinct, the sheriff told a reporter, "It's based on all the evidence before me." The bottom line here is this: we know more than you will ever know because that's how investigations work. That answer functions as both a shield and an admission. If the evidence points toward a resolution, then 6 months of public statements about dead ends and widened suspect pools contradict it. If the evidence does not point toward a resolution, then the claim of knowing more is a rhetorical placeholder where a case update should be.
On Monday, Savannah Guthrie addressed her mother's kidnapper, who it's believed sent 2 notes to the family before going silent.
So I'm asking you, begging you, to do the right thing now. Make the right choice. Help us find her.
At the center of this procedural tangle is a daughter pleading into a camera. Savannah Guthrie, addressing the person who sent those notes, said, "I'm asking you, begging you to do the right thing now. Make the right choice. Help us find her." That statement is not analysis. It is not spin. It is the human cost of an investigation that has produced multiple labs, multiple DNA profiles, multiple tactical raids, and 0 custody. The family is still waiting. The notes were already read.
A long time. It's not a cold case. Not yet. It's not a cold case, but I sure hope it doesn't take 50 years to solve it. I hope so too. I hope so too. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, everyone, for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. If you have, thank you.
The sheriff closed one interview by saying he hopes this case does not take 50 years to solve. That is not a projection. That is a hedge. It tells the public, without quite saying so, that the active phase of this investigation may be longer than anyone anticipated. The question that remains is not whether the department is working. It is whether the work was delayed by decisions that privilege control over speed. When the FBI offers Quantico on day 1 and you send samples to a private lab for 6 weeks, you are not choosing the faster path. You are choosing the path you control. The notes were already read. The question now is whether the evidence that could have been recovered in those first 72 hours was already lost.